Hello. In this video we'll be discussing the 6th chapter of the second book of Aristotle's Art of Rhetoric. This chapter is concerned with the emotion of shame. Aristotle defines shame as pain or disturbance regard to bad things that have happened, whether in the past, present or future, that are likely to involve discredit. So discredit being the opinions of others, particularly those who we admire or those we seek to emulate. And Aristotle defines shamelessness in a similar fashion. He defines it as people that are indifferent to the pain or disturbance caused to others or involving others, or even indeed involving ourselves, that will cause others to discredit us. Shameless people are not concerned by that consideration. What type of actions can cause others to discredit us? Aristotle has several ideas, and I'll explain some of these shortly. Generally, discredit is caused by vice, or the absence of virtue, or the negation of virtue. For example, dishonesty or cowardice, throwing away one's shield, or taking flight in battle or conflict, or being dishonest with money or in your dealings are things that are shameful. Or pilfering dead people, or the property of dead people, or giving less help than you ought to, or not returning a favour, or flattering others, or begging, or doing things on the verge of begging are shameful things, and refusing to endure hardships that you ought to do, or those hardships that are endured by people older or weaker than us, or more vulnerable than us, is considered to be shameful. These things altogether show a mean or ignoble disposition in the words of Aristotle. They're basically failings of character. And the shame is magnified in proportion to the perceiver of the shameful act. If it's someone who we hold in high regard, as I mentioned, or if it's our family, then that shame intensifies. Shame can also be caused by willingly accepting injustice. We have a duty to call out injustice when we see it. And because shame is something that involves an other, it requires the judgment of an external. Aristotle quotes the proverb, "Shame dwells in the eyes." We can see shame in the eyes, and shame is a product of the eyes of the people observing our actions. So, the conditions under which we feel shame are, in short, having people related to us feel shame, who relate to us, who see our shameful acts, people who we admire or who admire us, or who we wish to be admired, or who we desire some service that we shall not obtain if we are discredited in their eyes. And that's why men feel shameful when they commit acts that bring dishonour, especially if it's to their exploit. And this also explains the practice of ancestor worship and the omniscience of religion, because culture is what people do when no one is looking, And if no one physical is looking or embodied, then people are less likely to be disincentivized to evil from shame. So one of the useful consequences of gods or ancestor worship or the afterlife is that there is a ledger all the time. There's someone scoring and accounting for our actions at any given point, whether it's a god or whether it's our ancestors, that we need to be mindful of, and we can't dishonor them. So that, in a nutshell, is all we have to say about shame. And I suppose the use of the emotion of shame is to incentivize an action. Not only can we claim that an action is not virtuous, we can also say that it's shameful. And we can draw out that shame by highlighting how that action will be viewed in the eyes of the people our audience admire or wish to be admired by. And that creates a strong incentive to not do that thing. And similarly, if we wish to malign an individual or discredit them, we can talk about how their actions betray a shamelessness, in that they may do things that are dishonorable or cowardly or mean or unjust, with no apparent concern or consternation arising from the eyes of the others, or arising from the knowledge that people will find out what they're doing. And of course, shameless individuals are very dangerous individuals. So I'll close with that. The next emotion is kindness. Thank you.